Hey everyone, this is Matthew Kent. Welcome to Theology on the Ground, the daily thought for my quiet time. So, one of the topics that I hit on often is the topic of generosity because it's so important in the Christian life. And of course, it starts with God, who is generous, and then the Christian should be one who is generous to those in need, generous with their money, generous with their time, generous with their knowledge, generous with the grace of God that's been given to them. And so one of the most interesting and important verses comes from 2 Corinthians 8. So I'm going to read starting in verse 1. Paul writing to the church at Corinth. Now, brethren, we wish to make known to you the grace of God which has been given in the church of Macedonia. So that's interesting. He calls it the grace of God. What is he talking about? We're going to see it in a second. That in a great ordeal of affliction, their abundance of joy and their deep poverty overflowed in the wealth of their liberality, meaning their giving. For I testify that according to their ability and beyond their ability, they gave of their own accord, begging us with much urging for the favor of participation in support of the saints. So in other words, he's saying they were begging Paul to support the other churches in need. Particularly, I think this was the church at Jerusalem. And so he said the phrase is really interesting. He said that their poverty actually overflowed in the wealth of their liberality. So he's mentioning they're giving, beyond what their ability was, and they're really stretching. He mentions that this is, the grace of God that was given. And so it's really interesting here to note that Paul looks at an example to be commended as somebody who it's really hard for them to give, and they give anyway, and that this is the grace of God at work in the lives of the churches, and the churches helping each other out. Later on, he's going to mention that, listen, when one's lacking a little bit, the other one makes up for it, and this is so that there's equality. And, John Wesley, who very famously had a wonderful sermon on money, would talk about that, hey, one of our top priorities in terms of our financial generosity is to the household of faith. And then, of course, after that, we should definitely look out for all the poverty and the evil of the world and look to ameliorate that with our giving. And so that would include things like, Compassion International, which also has the benefit of, spreading the gospel message. So, one of the encouragements that I want to give to you, it's not like I'm a master of this. I'm still growing, still learning, still trying to push myself, is, most of us come into a position where the bills are tight and, we're struggling just to make ends meet. And so we say to ourselves, when I have more money, I'll give. And, it's not really the best way to go about it. The best way to go about it is to say that, you know what, I might be struggling, but they're struggling more. I can help. And hopefully that's the way that God is going to turn all of our hearts to operate. And so my challenge to you right now, okay, that's fine. Maybe, you're not in a position that you can give, let's say to Compassion, you can't muster the full $38 to sponsor a child. Find somewhere where you can give. If it's $5 a month, that's awesome. Because if it's $5 when you thought you could spare nothing, then you're acting like the Corinthian church there, and churches of Macedonia, I should say, and your poverty is overflowing in the wealth of your generosity. So those are my thoughts for you today. Hopefully they were useful to you. Lord willing, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for another daily thought for my quiet time.